To the channel, guys. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you and yours are well. And the topic of today's video before kind of the Q&A portion is when to change exercises. So as you're going through multiple training cycles, like how do you know when to change an exercise? Does it matter for hypertrophy, or can you do the same stuff all the time? And I would first say that this is a topic to where we are talking about something that is pretty very well likely minute in the grand scheme of things. Like, I think that if someone told me that they didn't change exercises, but they used a variety of different angles, and the exercises that they didn't change, they still covered like vertical and horizontal pushing and pulling. They still had a hip hinge movement, a squat pattern, a lunge, and they had kind of their bases covered. Man, I think that you could get away for a long time without changing things for hypertrophy. Now, changing exercises does have a couple of benefits, and one of them is it just prevents staleness. It prevents your workouts from getting super kind of boring, and it makes it more enjoyable. So I definitely think that changing exercises has that benefit. And I also think that it might actually provide you a little bit of a novel stimulus. And if it provides that novel stimulus, you might be able to get a little bit more out of less total volume. All right. So if we look at exercise selection here, I think that the two main purposes are staleness. And I'm just going to write stale because this freaking mouse is hard to kind of write with here and you probably can't read it. And number two is novelty. And I think that the benefit of novelty is you might be able to do a little bit less volume here and still get a similar stimulus. And then staleness, like I said, it keeps things fun, keep things enjoyable. These are the two kind of primary things that I see for why exercise rotation might be a good idea. All right. Now, there might be a third thing. And this third one would be like targeting new areas of your muscle. So, I don't know, new stimulus. That's kind of the same as novelty, but new stimulus. So this would be like working with different angles, different like lines of pull and stuff like that. So let's say in mesocycle 1, you're not doing any exercises for your biceps to where your arm is behind your body. So you're not doing anything like that. Well, a benefit to rotating exercises, maybe you do an exercise to where your arms are behind of your body. You get to elongate the bicep a little bit more, and that could potentially be a benefit. So the three kind of benefits of exercise rotation, I think anyways, are prevent staleness. It might add a little bit novelty, and by this novelty, I mean it might diminish kind of that repeated bout effect that you get from doing exercises to where you might get more stimulus out of a little bit less. And then similar to this one would be kind of a third one of working with different angles and different lines of pull, and maybe you're targeting the muscle in a little bit different way to get a little bit more hypertrophy. But that one is similar, but kind of slightly different than point number 2 of novelty. All right. So those are kind of the benefits that I see there. Do I think that you have to rotate your exercise in a certain way? No, I absolutely don't think so. But my approach is pretty simple here. So basically what I do from an exercise rotation standpoint is, can you guys read that a little bit? It's kind of difficult, but I do one new exercise per muscle per mesocycle. So every like 4 to 6 week training cycle, I like to get one new exercise per muscle per meso. It's kind of my rule of thumb that I like to go by. It doesn't always happen this way, but this is my general thing I like to do. And the reasons I do this is because, hey, maybe some novelty, prevent some staleness, and maybe working in different angles, different lines of pull kind of helps out. But do you have to do this? No, absolutely not, okay? But this generally kind of works for me. I would swap out exercises that feel the most stale to you and stuff like that. Also, like, what I mean by staleness might be when you just don't look forward to doing exercise, when your strength progress isn't going well on it anymore, stuff like that. That's kind of what I'm talking about with staleness. All right, so maybe one new exercise per muscle per meso, especially for ones getting stale. Now, another question related to this is, do I think that you should keep exercises in there all the time, or do I think that's a problem? And I would say it is helpful to kind of keep coming back to certain exercises. And I think that this is helpful because you can kind of see how well you are progressing with this. And Alberto Nunez kind of compared your weekly average weigh-ins to your strength in the gym. And his point was like, okay, we've kind of taught people for so long that, hey, don't pay attention to one single weigh-in throughout the week. Like one day, it can be up or down. We're looking at the general trend over time, the general weekly average over time. And the same thing could kind of be said for your strength levels in the gym. We really don't care about your strength on any one specific session. But what we're looking for is that general trend from mesocycle to mesocycle, that average over time. Is that getting better? And by coming back to certain handful of exercises, you can see that general trend a little bit better. So you're not just kind of getting those strength increases to get better at an exercise. So what I like to do is kind of have a handful of exercises that I do continuously come back to. And I like to kind of pick one exercise per major movement. So one exercise that I like to keep coming back to for my horizontal pressing or for my chest. One that I like to keep coming back to for my back. One that I like keep coming back to for a squat, and one for a hip hinge. And if those general trends are going up, you're totally fine. And right now, my personal favorites for those is a flat dumbbell bench press, a single arm cable row. Like that's my jam right now. Barbell rows, I use those a lot too, so you could say that as well. But man, if my dumbbell bench is going up and my single arm cable row is going up, my back, my chest, my triceps, my biceps are probably heading in the right direction as well. And you could use like a barbell curl, keep coming back to that as well. And then same thing for like barbell back squats are a great one to track progress over time. And then like a barbell RDL are kind of my handful that I'll rotate them out every once in a while, but I will kind of keep them in the rotation pretty regularly. And, you know, some people will ask, I have an exercise that I really, really love. What if I just don't ever swap it out? Is that okay? And I think that, yes, if that is definitely okay, as long as you're making sure to still work with a variety of other exercises to that, different angles, stuff like that. So for me personally, I rarely take out the flat dumbbell bench press. I love that exercise, but I also do a lot of pec flies and incline work and stuff like that. So I know that by rotating other exercises in there, I still have my bases covered. And I think that as long as you're not noticing any pains, niggles, stuff like that, you're absolutely fine there. All right. So that is today's topic, but let's get in to the first question in today. And the first question that I've got, this comes from my best friend in high school. He asked me this over on Instagram, and he basically asked, one thing that everybody loves, but I think is overrated. Is that one word or is that two? Or is it hyphenated? I don't know. We'll go with that. So what's one thing that everybody loves, but I think is overrated? And on Instagram, I answered this and in a different way than I'm going to answer it here. So on Instagram, off the spot, I thought about this after I answered it, and I said, like, animated TV shows and stuff like that. I'm sorry, guys. It just doesn't do the trick for me. I don't like it. And then bacon. Everyone likes bacon, but I'm totally not a fan. But thinking about this more, I think I have a little bit better one. And before I say it, let me know down below. Leave your comments on your answer to this question. What's something that everyone loves but you think is overrated? Let me know in the comments below. And also, if you want to help a brother out, drop this bad boy a like. But I think that something that's overrated that everyone kind of does but doesn't make a ton of sense to me is when you are sitting in class mindlessly taking notes. Like almost everybody going through college they would print out the PowerPoint slides of the teacher and they would just mindlessly take notes. They wouldn't even listen to the lecture, but they would just take notes. And I think that's going about it the wrong way. Like my personal approach was I really didn't take many notes at all. I know, but with the caveat that I still would study the study guides. I would still print off the notes if I felt I needed them. And I would still Google stuff that I didn't understand after class. But my approach was, okay, I'm going to actually listen to the lecture. And in the top margin of my notebook, in that top little section, I would write down questions that I would think that might be on the test. So we are covering a big topic that day. And okay, so in anatomy and physiology, let's say the topic we were covering was the respiratory system. I might write a question in the top of my margin like, what does the left aortic valve do? And then I would write the answer down below really quickly. And when I would study, I would cover up the answers and I would just read through those questions to make sure I knew the content. So instead of writing down like every single note that the teacher was writing down, I would just write down a few questions in the margin, make sure I know the answers. And that works pretty well. And then studying the study guide and stuff like that. So one thing that everyone does, everyone loves that I think is overrated is just sitting in class and taking notes and not actually thinking about what the teacher is saying. All right. So I really like that question. Question number 2 here. And I already, in advance, my answer is not going to be very good, and I apologize. But it basically asks, go to, and I'm going to do the little, is this the return sign on the keyboard? I don't know. I should look at my keyboard. My keyboard doesn't have it. But I think that's a return sign, but good to return to the gyms when gyms start to open again in the US. Do I think it's okay to return? And like I said, I'm sorry, but this isn't an area of expertise that I can give you any direction on. I don't want to say that like I'm above giving recommendations on social media about different things, but like there's a lot of people on social media right now that are self-proclaimed experts on this disease that's going around, and I don't think it's my place to where I know nothing about these sorts of diseases to give recommendations on if it's okay to go back. Like, I think that's everybody's personal decision on what they currently think the risks are, what the benefits to going back to the gym are. Are you around anybody that might be at more risk? Stuff like that. I think that's definitely your call there. Personally, for me, I've decided to go back to the gym because it's opening up, but my situation is like, hey, I'm literally there at the gym with one other guy, and like both of my parents are healthy and stuff like that, and we don't have many diseases and cases in our county. Like, I don't think that we have any live cases right now. So like, I'm in a much different position than a lot of you. So that's all I'm going to kind of cover on that one. All right. But the third, number 3, 2 weeks left in the diet, friends party, what do? So I'm going to call this one handling abbreviated social stuff. So how do you handle like social occasions and stuff like that when you are dieting? And I'm just looking at my handwriting here and it's so awful. Not that much different than what it looks like with a pen. But how would you handle this? 2 weeks left in the diet, friends party this weekend, what to do? Well, what I would probably do is like, hey, let's just plan a refeed for this day, calories up to maintenance, plan for a refeed, and save some calories up for the party, stuff like that. Like, having to extend your diet by one more day because you decided to have a refeed for a friend's party, not a big deal. So I would probably plan for a refeed or just a day of maintenance on that day in particular. And I think that one of the best things you can do is focusing on your friends and focusing on making sure that people around you have a good time and stuff like that, rather than focusing on the food. And I think that if you do that, you're actually less likely to overeat because it's not about the food. It's about kind of your friends and stuff like that. And when in doubt, if they're pressuring you or you feel like, or they offer you like really calorie dense stuff and you're like, man, even though I'm eating at maintenance, I still don't have enough room for that today. I would just be like, hey guys, I watch my figure way too much to eat this stuff. It's just not going to happen. And like most of your friends are going to respect that, kind of laugh it off, make fun of yourself for being a weirdo and worrying about stuff. Now, this is a whole nother topic, but one thing that does bother me is like fit shaming, and when you're trying to make healthy decisions, stuff like that, and friends are like, oh, you're so healthy, and they're trying to put you down. Like, that bothers me so much. Like, we're trying to do good stuff here. But anyways, that's kind of how I would approach it. I hope that helps. Drop any questions that you guys have down below, and I'll see you next Sunday. All right? All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys.